753 Pirminius, German saint, missionary, and monk founder in a number of monasteries including Reichenau, dies b. before 700. In 1254 Johannes III Doukas Vatatzes, Byzantine Emperor 1222-54 saint, dies. In 1324 Petronilla de Meath, Irish maidservant, first person in Ireland or Great Britain to be burnt at the stake for witchcraft and heresy, at about 24. In 1344 Adolf II de la Marck, Prince Bishop of Liege 1313-44 forced to sign the Peace of Fexhe, dies at 56. In 1378 Jeronimo II, ruler of Polanen, Leck and Breda, dies. In 1428 Thomas Montacute, 4th Earl of Salisbury, English military leader mortally wounded in battle b. 1388. In 1456 Edmund Tudor, 1st Earl of Richmond and patriarch of the Tudor Dynasty, dies of bubonic plague imprisoned in Carmarthen Castle at 26. In 1580 Jeronimo Zurita y Castro, Spanish historian b. 1512. In 1584 Saint Charles Borromeo, Italian cardinal, and Archbishop of Milan 1564-84, dies at 46. In 1600 Richard Hooker, English theologian b. 1554. In 1639 Martinus de Porres, Peruvian saint patron of social justice, dies at 59. In 1643 John Bainbridge, English astronomer b. 1582. In 1643 Paul Gulden, Swiss astronomer and mathematician Gulden's theorem, dies at 66. In 1652 Giuseppe de Ribera, Spanish painter and printmaker nicknamed Los Nolto the Little Spaniard, dies at 61. In 1708 Henriette Catharina van Nassau, Dutch princess consort of Anhalt-Dessau, and daughter of Frederick Henry Prince of Orange, dies at 71. In 1711 Ferdinand Tobias Richter, Austrian Baroque composer and organist Vienna Court Chapel, 1690-1711, dies at 60. In 1711 John Ernest Grebe, German-born Anglican theologian, dies at 45. In 1787 Robert Loth, British Bishop of the Church of England and grammarian A Short Introduction to English Grammar, dies at 76. In 1794 Franz Joachim de Bernice, French cardinal and statesman, dies at 79. In 1803 Henry Moreau, Flemish composer, dies at 75. In 1808 Theophilus Lindsay, English theologian and clergyman, dies at 85. In 1832 Pietro Generali, Italian composer, dies at 59. In 1845 Johann Jasper Verstolk van Solen, Dutch Minister of Foreign Affairs, dies at 69. In 1864 Antonio Gonçalves Dias, Brazilian national poet, dies at c. Brazilian noblewoman and mistress of Pedro I, dies at 69. In 1867 Pieter J. Jong, Dutch Zwerf, dies in battle. In 1869 Andreas Calvos, Greek poet, dies at 77. In 1880 Solon Robinson, American journalist New York Tribune, writer Hot Corn Life Scenes in New York Illustrated, and agriculturist, dies at 77. In 1890 Ulrich Hotzenbein, Swiss federal councillor and soldier, dies at 78. In 1891 Louis Lucien Bonaparte, British French philologist, politician and nephew of Napoleon, dies at 78. In 1904 Gaston Serpet, French composer, dies at 57. In 1911 Salvador Giner y Vidal, Spanish composer, dies at 79. In 1913 Hans Bronsart von Schellendorf, Prussian pianist, composer and music director Royal Theatre of Hanover, 1867-87, dies at 83. In 1914 Georg Trakl, Austrian poet Totenteig, dies of a cocaine overdose at 27. In 1917 Léon Bloy, French novelist and essayist, dies at 71. In 1918 Alexander Lyapunov, Russian mathematician Lyapunov exponent, dies at 61. In 1919 Terauchi Masateik, Japanese soldier and politician Prime Minister of Japan 1916-18, dies at 67. American sharpshooter Buffalo Bill S. Wild West dies of pernicious anemia at 66. In 1927, Kjellmatt J. Apekchod, Czech journalist, novelist and playwright, dies at 67. In 1929, Olav Aukrust, Norwegian poet, advocated literary use of Nynorsk, dies of tuberculosis at 46. German polar researcher and meteorologist Continental Drift dies while on an expedition to Greenland at 50. Date is approximate. In 1931, Rudolf Wilhelm Kahn, Fries playwright Pisc, dies at 60. French physician, bacteriologist, immunologist who developed the first diphtheria vaccine and co-founded the Pasteur Institute, dies at 79. In 1936, Philip Lazar, Romanian composer, dies at 42. In 1937, Winthrop Ames, American theatrical director Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, dies at 66. In 1939, Waldemar Lindgren, Swedish-American gemologist, economic gemology, or classification, dies at 79. In 1940, Carl Sternheim, German playwright Trousers, Snob, dies at 64. In 1944, Jack Miner, Canadian naturalist and conservationist, dies at 79. In 1945, Alessandro Longo, Italian composer and musicologist, dies at 80. In 1945, James Frederick Wagner, father of Priscilla Presley, dies in a plane crash. In 1949, Solomon R. Guggenheim, American businessman and art collector, Guggenheim Museum, New York, dies at 88. In 1952, Louis Verneuil, French playwright, screenwriter and actor, My Life with Caroline, Murder for Sale, dies by suspected suicide at 59. 12. French painter and sculptor Dance Roman II, dies at 84. In 1954, Pietro Dero, Italian-American accordionist, first president of the American Accordionists Association, and music publisher, Accordion Music Publishing Company AMPCO, dies at 66. In 1957, Wilhelm Reich, Austrian-American psychoanalyst, coined term sexual revolution, worked with Freud, dies at 60. In 1958, Harry Revel Englaser, Latvian-American film score composer, Sitting Pretty, gay divorcee, dies from a cerebral hemorrhage at 52. In 1959, Friedrich Nicolai, Swiss composer, Buchenkelidley, Nach dem Regen, dies at 83. In 1960, Bobby Wallace, baseball HOF shortstop, pitcher, Temple Cup 1895, Cleveland Spiders, and manager St. Louis Browns, Cincinnati Reds, dies at 86. In 1960, Harold Spencer Jones, English astronomer and 10th Astronomer Royal of England, whose work led to a more accurate determination of the distance between the Earth and the Sun, dies at 70. In 1960, Paul Willis, American actor, the Little Lumberjack, Little Kintuck, dies at 59. President of General Motors 1953-58, dies at 69. In 1964, John Henry Barbee, American blues guitarist and singer, dies of a heart attack at 58. In 1966, Eric Spear, British film and TV composer, Coronation,